I'm John, and tonight I want answers about Congress. There's no stopping us now because we're live.
I'm John Thompson.
I'm John A. Vink.
I'm Keith Statenfield.
I'm Loretta Beavers.
I'm AJ Minnick.
I'm Jennifer Sim.
I'm Bobby Chastain. These stories tonight on John Wants Answers.
John wants answers. John wants answers. Give John answers. John answers. John wants answers. John wants answers. Give John answers now.
Check your calendar. If it says February 9th, 2023, then we're live. My guest tonight is Keith Statenfield. Hi, Keith.
Hi, John.
Long time no see.
Oh, you saw me like 2 weeks ago.
But our viewers haven't seen you on the show.
Oh, no,
in
I was
months.
busy. I was busy.
Busy,
Yeah.
partying.
I don't even remember what I was doing. But
1 week?
I'm not good at remembering things in the past. I think 1 week I was in Wisconsin.
1 month you were partying, 1 month you were in Wisconsin.
That was it, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, you had some other guy in here. And I got a lot of feedback.
What feedback did you get?
Oh, like, where are you? Is everything okay?
The feedback I got was,
then,
I love the new guy on the show.
Well, that is not the feedback I heard.
Oh.
I heard like this show is terrible because you're not on it. That was Loretta.
Okay.
And then I heard it's great to have Thursday nights free. That was me. And then another friend of mine was like, you kicked John to the curb, right? And I'm like, no, I was just busy.
I heard it's nice to actually have a guy on the show who gives honest answers.
Oh, I give mostly honest answers.
Mostly? That's a
Yeah,
sliding scale, I suppose.
mostly.
Like mostly harmless.
Yeah, exactly. Mostly harm. Like, people like me. Like, people miss me when I'm not here. Whereas if you weren't here, no one would miss you.
Well, who would be here if I wasn't here?
Well, no one else. That's why no one would miss you.
One time I tried to not be here and still have you be here, but you didn't stand up to the occasion.
I didn't. That would
No.
be, why would I do John Wants Answers without John?
That would be the beauty of it. What would happen?
Okay, sure.
be-
Just let me know. Let me know.
Okay.
I mean, technically, anytime you're not with me is a John Wants Answers without John. Because I'm like this 24/7.
That must be very tiring.
It's exhausting. Yeah.
All right. Well, today we're going to talk about Congress.
Congress.
Our new topic, Congress. There we go.
Yeah.
Let's wake the guy
He's a
up.
little late.
He's not used to it.
No,
we didn't
he's
have him
not.
play the last episode. So,
He doesn't like Bitcoin.
he lost everything in Bitcoin.
Yeah, he thinks
He
it's
lost
a
it
scam.
all. So, he was not up to that episode.
Yeah.
We have now the 118th Congress.
Yeah.
And there's a new one every 2 years, right?
Yes.
So I did the math. That means we have 236 years worth of Congresses.
Yes.
The first one in 1789.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that far back?
I can. Like, I watched Hamilton.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen Hamilton. So.
Oh, you should see it. It's good. It's on Disney Plus.
Oh, it is.
I'd lend you my login, but that would be wrong.
I have my own Disney Plus login.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, since you're retired, you're splurging.
Exactly. But I barely ever watch it.
Well,
that's
that's
something
how
good
it goes
on
with all of them.
1789. Now that was years after
The American Revolution.
the Revolution.
Yeah, because we had the Continental Congress first.
So how long did that take? It took like 8 years.
I mean, I think we kind of call the end of the revolution 1778, 1779.
Okay.
I think we had the Continental Congress for 10-ish years.
That was like a stopgap before they figured out what the government was going to be like.
No, they were like, this is how our government's going to be. And then time went by and they were like, nah, it didn't work at all.
Don't work at all.
And then they had a constitutional convention and then they adopted a whole new set of rules.
Okay. And it's perfect now.
No.
Okay. Was the Electoral College part of the new rules?
Yeah.
Or the old ones?
Like the Continental Congress was very weak compared to our current federal government, which is still, for much of our history, was not the strongest. You know, we still have significant state freedoms.
Yes.
And they had even more of them before they adopted this Constitution.
All right. What's the first thing that a new Congress does?
They elect a speaker.
Elect a speaker.
Yeah.
Okay. Now,
Was the guy supposed to play? Because you pointed at him.
no one.
Maybe that's why he's confused.
If I pointed up in the sky, which I'm
You
going to
did.
do. That side. He's
I
over
agree,
there.
he's there-ish, but
No, he's there-ish. He's over there. Okay. Back on track now. So, the second thing Congress does is swear in the new Congress people.
well, the speaker swears in the Congress people.
Okay.
So it's the first thing the speaker does is swear in everyone else.
That means to elect the speaker, there are unsworn in people voting.
Correct.
That seems backwards. Is that ass backwards or not?
No, it's just that's what the Congress says.
Okay.
I mean, that's what the Constitution says.
Okay.
That the speaker shall be elected, mumble, mumble, mumble.
But if they're not sworn in, how can they be voting?
Because the rules say that they vote for the speaker.
Oh, okay.
I mean, it.
So usually, everyone gets together first day of Congress.
First day of Congress.
And
I mean, really, they get together in November before the new congressional session starts.
Oh, okay.
And they have a little meeting among the Democratic members of Congress and the Republican members of Congress.
They have separate meetings.
They do.
And they
Caucus
just-
meetings.
they
And they
decide.
they talk about who they expect to put forward for their leadership roles.
Something must
And
have
there's
gone wrong.
jockeying.
Something went wrong this year. Is that fair to say?
It did not go as Kevin McCarthy's plan.
So, normally, first day, first vote, they succeed
Everyone's out
and they get a speaker.
hour 10, hour 20 in.
But this time, they had a vote.
Yes.
Now, you need not just the majority of votes, you need a plurality of votes.
You need a majority. Plurality is who gets the most.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
Majority is who gets more than half,
Okay.
which is also a plurality.
Okay. So you need plurality. So 50%.
No, you need a majority.
Majority.
50% plus one.
Plus
219 in this case.
219. Because you have 435.
I'm going to say 219 because it wasn't actually 219. You have to get a majority of those voting,
Oh.
not a majority of those present.
So if someone said present, voted present,
Then
they would be removed from the total votes you needed.
then they would reduce by 1/2 vote
Uh-huh.
the number of votes you needed to get a majority.
So this McCarthy guy, he kept on losing to the other guy,
Well, a whole set of other guys.
Hakeem Jeffries.
Well,
So
yeah,
all
yeah.
Democrats voted for Hakeem Jeffries.
Correct.
And most Republicans, but not all, voted for Kevin McCarthy,
Yes.
which was less than votes got by Hakeem Jeffries.
In many cases, yes.
And so, but it's not like Hakeem Jeffries won because it wasn't a majority.
Plurality.
So that means there were like a few holdouts.
Like 7,
Okay.
10.
Were they part of a caucus?
Well, they were. I mean, some of them were part of a caucus, yes.
What's the name of this caucus they were part of?
The not voting for Kevin McCarthy caucus. I mean, many of them are members of the Freedom Caucus.
Okay.
Some of them are members of the. I mean, I've got a name for them, and I can put the word caucus after that name.
What's the
The
Freedom Caucus?
Deplorables Caucus, the shouldn't be in Congress Caucus.
Right.
Some of them, I think, are in the Traitorous Acts Caucus.
Yeah. Insurrectionists.
Yeah.
Yeah. What's the Freedom Caucus?
Freedom Caucus is kind of the remnants of what was the Tea Party caucus
Okay.
10 or 15 years. You know, it's caucuses are unofficial in a sense. They're just,
Just people who got together.
yeah, people get together and they make up a nice name.
So they knew, well, so McCarthy had a lot of votes, you're just shy by a few.
Yes.
And so these holdouts, what were they trying to accomplish?
Mostly they were trying to get additional, they were trying to get certain changes made to how Congress operate, how the House of Representatives operates
Okay.
for this congressional term.
What changes did
And
they?
many of those changes were agreed to on the first ballot, and they still didn't vote for McCarthy. So largely, the people that didn't vote for McCarthy were unhappy. You know, some people were unhappy with McCarthy and said, I'm never going to vote for him. And they, in fact, never did vote for him.
And that can only be like 4 or 5 people. I guess,
That was
right?
like 2 or 3 people
Okay.
never voted for McCarthy and always voted against him.
How
2
do
or
they
3
expect
people
this to
never voted
resolve?
for McCarthy and eventually voted present. Some people voted against McCarthy and eventually changed their minds.
Okay. What kind of changes did they want to the rules of the House?
I mean, they had asked for what's called a return to regular order. They wanted,
What does that mean?
has to do with when something is on the floor of the House, who's allowed to make motions, who's allowed to make suggested changes to the bill, what order will people be called on, I mean, for the past decade or so, Congress, the House of Representatives, has largely operated so that once a bill comes out of committee, when it comes to the House, when it comes to the floor of the House, and everyone has to vote on it, the ability of members to make amendments or to make speeches at that point in time has been severely limited.
Okay.
They'd say things like, you know, debate's going to be limited to an hour, and each side can have 7 people speak. And that means everyone gets like 3.5 minutes to talk to a bill, and no one gets to suggest changes to the bill. And
So-
that's been done originally by Republicans, and then when Nancy Pelosi took over as Speaker, she kept a lot of those rules the same, because it makes it easier for you to accomplish things on the floor of the House.
Okay.
If you say anyone's allowed to make an amendment and we're going to keep taking amendments and taking votes on those amendments until people are tired, you can get to what you have in the Senate, where it takes 40 hours to pass a bill because people want to gum up the process and slow things down, or they wanted changes like people have to have bills, you know, available to read 72 hours before they vote on them.
That seems reasonable.
Because it seems reasonable, but now you have an amendment to a bill. If I make an amendment to a bill, do we have to wait 72 hours to pass it? If so, I can slow any legislation down by just saying, we 25 people don't really want this bill to pass. So each of us is going to propose an amendment, and then we're going to wait 3 days and propose the next one. And you can, you know, some bills have to pass on a certain schedule. And if you allow total freedom as to what 435 people can do, 435 people is really too many people to act cohesively and make things happen.
Okay.
There were changes to committee sizes. There were certain of the people voting against McCarthy wanted to be put on certain committees that they had been not allowed on before.
Oh.
There are elaborate, ever-changing seniority roles of who gets to be on committees and who gets to be chairman of committees and who gets to be vice chairman. And all of that has implications to, you know, if you're a chairman of a committee, you get a better office than if you're not a chairman of a committee. So if your office is tiny and cramped and you want a better office, you want to get a little more seniority and get a little better place. And you can get a little more staff if you can get more paid staff people if you have committees you serve on.
Now
So there's
I've heard,
a lot of that level of infighting and administravia that
I heard that they also wanted to pass a condition where any person can say, we want to vote for a new speaker now.
That is reportedly one of the changes, yes.
Reportedly, like we don't know.
Well, there is supposedly a undisclosed document which was agreed to by Kevin McCarthy, and we don't know what's in that. I think the public document says you don't need 10 people to call a new election for speaker. You need one person. But there may be additional conditions on that.
Wouldn't it be then that every morning Congress, shows up and a Democrat says, election for new speaker?
Yes, that's possible. I don't know if that's allowed under the rules. I mean, they'd have to get recognized.
How would the rules not be public? How could members of the House not know the rules of the House?
They may know the rules.
And they're not speaking?
Yeah, they're not speaking.
Wouldn't all the Democrats also know the rules and just share
No,
it with
truthfully,
us?
they may not have told them.
Well, then how can the Democrats follow the rules of the House without knowing the rules of the House?
Good question.
And when are the rules of the House passed?
Generally, they were passed very shortly after that speaker's election.
So Speaker was elected, the Congress people were then sworn in.
One
Now,
of the first acts was to adopt rules for the
the
session of Congress.
couldn't Kevin McCarthy just skip that part? Or approve the old rules? He could have screwed everybody over.
No, because a majority of the House voted the rules in.
Oh, that's voted on as well?
Yeah.
Okay. But they weren't knowing what they were voting on.
I mean, they voted on their set of rules, but McCarthy may have additional rules that he has agreed to accept and impose.
Sounds really sketchy.
It might be a tad sketchy. We don't
Okay.
know. And then they appoint committees, and then they vote on the committees, and blah, blah, blah.
Now, during this time, when McCarthy didn't have enough votes, could the Democrats all have voted for someone more favorable, like a Republican who's more favorable to their agenda?
They could have. That has never happened in the House, but that has happened in California. It's happened in other states and their state legislatures. California, Willie Brown got elected speaker when there were a minority of Democrats in the legislature by getting a couple Republicans to vote with him. And it was a big scandal at the time. And this year, I think in Ohio, a number of Democrats voted with a few Republicans to appoint a different Republican speaker than the vast majority of the Republicans in their House or Senate, I don't remember which, had all agreed was going to be speaker.
So you have to get a few people to turn on their party,
When it's this close, yeah. I mean, when it's
4 or 5 people.
212 to 219,
Yeah.
if the Democrats had a 100-member majority over the Republicans, which was the case in the 70s and 60s,
Wow.
it is inconceivable that the Republicans could have allied to make anyone else speaker.
Yeah. Now, the Speaker of the House does not need to be a member of the House of Representatives.
Strangely not.
So, a few times they voted for Donald Trump.
And others, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, our next topic on Congress is George Santos. See?
I think he's over there. I think he's in that tree, not that one. See?
No.
I can see the very edge of the piano.
That's something else. Okay, George Santos. Known liar.
Yes.
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 So he fabricated his whole employment history and
Not his whole employment history, but a lot of it.
his educational history.
Yes.
And he
He
skipped,
did graduate from high school.
but not the high school he said he went.
Oh, well, still.
He went to a
Yeah.
prep school or something, he said.
Yeah.
And he skipped over the part where he was a a drag queen in Brazil.
Well, he never said he wasn't a drag queen.
Yeah.
I-
So he had this platform, which is almost all lies, and he got elected.
he did.
Did anyone check his background?
Strangely, yes. Like, I mean, they've gone back. He won an election. It wasn't. It was somewhat close. But he did win. New York, as a state, redistricted, and then a New York judge said that's way too partisan of a redistricting, and he did it, and he changed the districts before the election.
Okay.
So there was a lot of consternation. Districts moved around. So a number of incumbents weren't running quite where they were. So everyone was a little worse off running this time. And there are a number of seats that went Republican in New York that people did not expect to go Republican. But part of the reason is that everything got jumbled and people weren't able to run as effectively. They had a shorter amount of time to campaign. Some people were campaigning outside of where they actually lived because of how things changed. But yes, he ran. However, it turns out the local newspaper, well before the election, was publishing articles that were like, this guy's past is kind of sketchy. We can't find any evidence that he worked some of the places he said he worked, and we don't know that he did some of the other things he said he did. Now,
Is anyone paying attention?
It was a smaller race. It wasn't as expected that the Democrat was going to lose, so people weren't. I mean, Santos, or Devolver, or whatever his name is, right, ran for essentially the same seat 2 years earlier and just got creamed. This time, he got a lot of campaign money, which we don't really know where it came from. So he was able to run ads and put out flyers that was much in excess of what was expected in that race until, fairly close to the election.
And then after the election is when the word got out that he was lying
And
with
then
everything.
after the election, I mean, I don't really remember anything getting out until we got to mid-December. So like a month went by, but people started to dig stuff up, and they started to talk to him, and they started to talk to people he talked to. And once you find the first couple lies, you're like, well, let's just keep digging. And it's very fertile territory. Like,
Okay.
you look at almost anything and you can find places where he was clearly lying or exaggerating or
Now, this is all discovered after the election, but before the new members of Congress were seated.
a lot of it was discovered. We keep discovering stuff, so it wasn't all discovered.
Okay. Now, is there a mechanism for Congress not to seat someone?
I think the answer is no. There are a few reasons you could not seat an elected person. They could die.
Okay.
You could discover that they are not a resident of the state that they claim to be a representative of. You could find they are not a citizen of the United States of America.
Okay.
You could find they are not, and I'm trying to remember for Congress, 28 years of age.
Okay.
I think senators are 35.
So there's a
Maybe
small list
representatives are
of
25. There's a
rules.
short list that's in the Constitution,
Okay.
or that just make total, complete sense, like you're dead, of
But
why
then-
you wouldn't take the oath and be seated.
Now, members of both parties, Republicans and Democrats, have said to George Santos that you should resign,
Yes.
even before he was seated and after. And he's refused to resign.
Yes.
But there's like an impeachment type process they can go through now.
2/3 of the House can vote to expel a member. I believe the Constitution says, there should be grounds. You shouldn't expel members just because. But
They probably have
Congress
grounds.
gets to decide what grounds are, probably. So I don't know how someone, if they have expelled a few members of Congress over the years with a 2/3 majority.
Now, does it look like So I heard the Democrats are introducing a resolution to expel him
I'm sure they are.
today.
I think they could also impeach him, which I think would be a 50% vote in the House, and then it would have to go to the Senate, and then the Senate would have to have a 2/3 vote.
No,
I
right.
think they can impeach a member of the House that way, because you can impeach judges that way.
Do you think that enough Republicans would vote to expel him if it came up to a vote? Well, first, would you think Kevin McCarthy would bring the vote to the floor to expel him?
Well, since you have to get 2/3 to successfully expel someone, you almost certainly are going to know before then that you have at least 50% that want to expel him. And if you have 50% of the House, they can sign a discharge petition, and that can be brought to the House. That gets forced onto the floor of the House 30 days after it's signed. So they could get something on the floor to be voted on to expel him. But they need 2/3. And it is unclear to me whether they will get.
A number of Republicans have said to him they want him to resign.
Not, another.
Like Mitt Romney. Apparently he doesn't like the guy.
Mitt Romney's in the Senate.
Oh, he's in the Senate. Okay. So if he does get expelled,
Yes.
does the governor of New York appoint a new
No,
representative?
members of the House of Representatives have to be elected. House of Representatives is the people's house.
Okay. So then-
Everyone there is directly elected by their states from their districts.
so if he's expelled, what
Senators
happens?
can be appointed. They call a special election.
Okay. So then he
And
remains the.
No. If he's expelled, he's expelled.
Uh-huh.
And they call a special election, and 6 months or 9 months or a year from now, they elect someone
That's a
to
long
fill
wait.
out the remainder of his term.
It's a long wait.
Which has happened, right? I mean, in the last House, 2 members of the House, I think, took roles in the cabinet. And
Oh.
so they had to call a special election in the House to fill those seats, and that took 9 months.
All right. Is there any crime about lying during a campaign?
Some things lying in a campaign are a crime. If he'd claimed to have received a military award, that's a crime.
Okay. Stolen valor.
Yeah,
it's called.
Stolen Valor Act.
Okay.
If he'd claimed to be an American citizen and wasn't, that's a crime.
Okay. But we believe he is.
There are campaign finance laws that he very likely broke, based on what we know.
Oh. Okay.
I don't think those get you kicked out of Congress.
Can a sitting member of Congress be charged with a crime?
They can't be arrested
Okay.
while the House is in. No member of Congress can be arrested while Congress is in session, but they can be charged with a crime.
Okay.
I'm not sure if that trial can go forward until the session of Congress ends without
that
the
a-
permission of Congress.
Is that a 2-year session or when they go on recess?
2-year session.
They
So,
go. Oh. Okay.
Well, they take a break halfway through, but
Yeah. Can they
it's one
squeeze in a
session
trial
of
in there?
Congress.
Okay. We don't have time for debt ceiling. We're going to talk about debt ceiling.
What?
What's going to happen?
Eventually, Congress is going to pay. I mean, eventually, the U.S. government's going to pay a bunch of bills.
So you think they're going to raise the debt ceiling eventually?
Eventually, yes, they'll have to.
Okay. Why don't they just raise the debt ceiling whenever they pass a new budget?
They ought to,
Yeah, they ought
but
to.
they don't.
They don't?
Yeah, because it lets them have this crazy theater.
Do Republicans want America to fail?
They do.
That's terrible.
Yeah, they're not good people.
Oh. Well, that's all the time we have for tonight. We will see you next month.
I won't.
What?
I'll be on a boat
Oh, that's right. You'll have John Cowell back again, talking about Bitcoin.
again.
Again.
How much?
He's
how
got
much
a lot
more
to say.
can he say about
He's
Bitcoin?
got a lot to say about